So what we like to do, guys, is we like to talk about people's journeys and break it into 3 parts. So that's the start, the middle, and the current. So the start is how you got into it and why. The middle is the exciting part, the growth part. I think there's plenty of growth going on with you guys. And then the current is what your attention is on now, what you're looking at going forward, and where you're going to take it. So if we just want to talk about those 3 parts, sort of in brief first, guys, and then we can go through some specific stuff. So if you can start by talking about this start part first, please.
Yeah, I'll do start. So, you know, Lonnie and I, we're friends from school. We've been friends for quite a long time, and we both had our own corporate careers through our 20s. And you know, for me, I worked for an oil and gas company in sort of finance, but globally. So you know, I spent 4 years in Russia, 4 years in Azerbaijan, 2 years in Norway. Kind of been on the road for the last sort of 14 years up into my early 30s. Laurie kind of has a similar story. Worked in oil and gas, sales side more than anything, and you know, fairly successful corporate careers, but you know, very much driven by a company, and you know, at the mercy of a company as well, in terms of, you know, we have to go where we're posted, and you know, you kind of feel like you've done some good things. You know, a lot of my job was essentially geographical expansion. So anytime they wanted to set up a new facility, I'd be the guy they'd send in to go and set up the systems and processes and hire the people and train them and make the business happen. And you know, we did a large project in Azerbaijan, which was my last major one for 4 years. And you know, I went in, set up the team, done all the joint venture agreements and all that with the incumbents there. And you know, over the course of the period, we made somewhere like $40 million of profit in 5 years. You know, huge thing, and not a lot of help from the organization, to be honest. It was a small team, and you know, I think at the end I got a $12,000 bonus, and I thought, you know, fuck this. You know, that was the tipping point for me. I thought, you know, if I can do this for someone else, why can't I do it for myself? And Laurie maybe tell his own sort of story there, but you know, we both came to that sort of conclusion at the same time. We were both settling down with kids, well, hoping to have kids, settling down to get married, certainly, and you know, it just didn't work with our desired lifestyle of constantly be the beck and call of the company and not getting really the rewards other than a salary. So we're both just chatting back and forth about business opportunities, and you know, we dipped our toe in the water, not very successfully with property because we didn't know what we were doing. I had a 250k house that I rented out, which looking back now is, you know, just a terrible investment in terms of yield and gross return. Laurie had 3 properties, but again, no real strategy about it. And then we both at the same time started learning about property investment and back and forward ideas. And you know, Laurie, you know, started his thing. I started my thing. We were doing it separately. And it was my wedding. The night before my wedding, I got a lead through. Laurie went to negotiate the deal because I couldn't, you know, I was in the middle of it. Kind of said, you know, if this works out, we'll go 50-50. And he done a fantastic deal. It was an ex-local authority 400 block, got it for 25 grand. I think we ended up
just to jump in there, what type of property are you getting for 25 grand? What is that?
Well, you know, in Scotland, we've got a lot of these cottage flats, they call them, which is like a 400 block council built, really solid flats, 2 beds. There's loads of them. I mean, to be honest, they go for more like 70, 80 now. But we were able to negotiate because, you know, it was a motivated seller, essentially. They had a bereavement. They had this flat they wanted to get rid of. They didn't want to have to deal with it. 25 grand cash, we closed in 2 weeks. And, you know, after we spent about 7 grand on it, refinanced to like 65k, and we pulled out our money, bunch of profit there, as well as a free asset, essentially, that cash flows now. But, you know, that was the first deal where Laurie had negotiated the deal. We found the first investor, you know, because we didn't necessarily have, I just don't like, we didn't necessarily have 25 grand sitting about to close in 2 weeks. We found the first investor at my wedding. You know, just chatting with one of our friends about it, and you know, that was our first private investor. So you know, it just came together beautifully, and you know, we done that deal, and then we kind of done another deal after it, and it just became very apparent with our complementary skills. You know, Laurie's very much focused on business growth, big ideas, pushing the business forward, sales. And I'm sort of the analytical guy, you know, who sits behind the scenes and sort of builds the systems and processes and analyzes the numbers. And that combination was just accelerating us really quickly. And that's kind of how we got together. So I don't know if you've got anything you want to add to that, Laurie. You know, kind of went through it
no, I think you pretty much well covered it. You know, it's you know, when we first got started, like as Alex says, his house that he had, you know, was like the house he used to live in. So he became this accidental landlord. You know, the three that I had bought, like I bought all in the same street because, you know, at the time I thought it was a nice street and, you know, I want to keep an eye on the tenants and that kind of. But like I never had any money. I borrowed like 20 grand to basically pay the deposit on this first property that like was across the road from me, you know, and it took like 10 years to get 3 properties. And then we were talking about it back in 2017 because, you know, the tax changes came in and I was like, I think I'm just going to punt these and like clear a bit off the mortgage and stuff. But kind of realized, like, you know, even if we cleared down our mortgage or even if we're mortgage free, difference does that make? You know what I mean? Like maybe got an extra grand a month or whatever, but like so what? You know, that's not going to change our lives. So yeah, we started looking at it a bit more seriously. And as Ek says, you know, sorry if I refer to Ek or Eccles, that's Alex I'm talking about, right? Bouncing ideas off each other was really what kind of pushed us forward. And yeah, that's how we kind of got started. It has only been, 2.5 years, maybe coming up 3 years now in November, I think.
So, is that from the first property, that first 25 grand,
yeah,
3 years?
It was November 2018 that we done our first deal, but we only actually started REWD Group a year after that, you know, because as Alex said, it was like we just said we'd go 50-50 if we managed to do a deal, but then we found another one, then we found another one, then we found another one, and you know, just kind of snowballed from there. So
fair play. And I mean, I'm sure we'll get into the numbers and what you've achieved in that short space of time, but that's even more impressive seeing 2018, you know, seeing it was only 2-3 years ago. It's amazing what you've done. I honestly believe that and mean that. Just going back a step, I think it was interesting what Alex said there about your skills complement each other. You know, people who are looking for JVs, people are looking for business partners. I think that's a really important point. I sold one of my businesses a few years ago, because me and someone else I brought in as a director clashed a little bit, and it got to a point where I wasn't really enjoying working with that person. And I think it's a really important point. And I think probably part of the reason you've done so well is you've got that working relationship that does complement each other. I think that's a really important point for people looking to JV or set up a business. You need to try and make sure that is the case.
Yeah, but it's a funny one. We never we never sat down and said, all right, you've got you've got the brains, I've got the looks, let's make lots of money, you know, like we just like started working together and it organically just it felt natural, but it's not like we really planned it out. It just kind of happened, you know. I think like you can try and be strategic about that and try and plan that out, but as you say, you know, you only went into business with that other guy because you thought it was going to be cool. You don't actually know until you start doing it if it's going to work or not, you know. But definitely the complementary kind of varied minds that we have have really helped us grow. Yeah,
it sounds it. Definitely. I think there's a lot of people who are too keen to JV these days, isn't it? You know, they'll meet someone at a networking event and the JV the next week and put the money in. You know, you need to try. I do get what you're saying, and I do agree. You never really know, but I think you've still got to. The fact you were friends first, I think.
We had that base. Like, sorry, can't you go?
We do other JVs as well. You know, as part of our business, and you know, we have this motto of we don't do JVs with anyone unless we know, love, and trust them, and that comes now through. You know, we'll talk a bit more about the group as a whole, but we now have this training arm to our business, and we don't do joint ventures with anyone who's not been through our advanced buy-to-let training, because they need to understand what we're doing with the money. You know, it's not good enough for someone just to bring cash. They need to understand how we're employing it. And, you know, we had some early friction with those sort of things. And, you know, we've got a pretty solid system, I think, to sort of vet anyone before we get in the bed with them, so to speak.
Love that. I think that's good advice. Before we go on to the growth part, the exciting part that I'm really interested in. So why property? Was it always an interest of both of yours prior to doing this, or was it just like you said, it's a good place to put your money, or was there a desire to get into it? Is it in the family or anything? What was it about property?
Well, I mean, look, why I got started was just like, apparently you get a good return on your money and property. So, okay, I'll just buy this thing across the road. And, that was it for me. But at the end of the day, if people talk about property, it's seen as like a good investment, a good place to put your money, profitable, blah, blah, blah. But like when we got started, we didn't have a clue about all that. We just kind of got into it because it was like, meant to be, a good place for your money.
Yeah.
But interestingly, it is pretty cool. And in fact, we've got a slide on this somewhere about the Forbes rich list. And, it shows you like where everybody makes their money, like in terms of billionaires across the world and stuff. And like the number one market is property investment, So it's like, and this has been the case for years. Like we go on about it's like, look, just find folk that have done what you want to do, copy what they do. It's not like we're doing anything like, I don't know what we do that's any different from other folk. I think we just think differently, But yeah, we just basically, property's a good place to go after. I guess we've got a bit of an interest in it, so let's just push the boundaries and see what we can do.
yeah, man.
Yeah, I always say, I'm a really simple guy. When I was at school, I went to the career advisor and said, right, what's the thing I can make the most money in? And, obviously at school, they have a very limited view on things. They're only really producing employees. So it's like, here's a job you can get. If you want to make good money, you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant. So it's like, right, okay, accountant it is. Became an accountant, done that. Didn't really like it too much. And then wanted to start my own business. And it's like, well, what's the best thing to make money in? And as Laurie said, you just need to look at these rich lists and where everybody's making their money. And it's property, and it helps that we love what we do, So it's an easy one for me, to be honest.
Of that, it's definitely not a coincidence. I think I've read something similar, and it's like, if you look at X amount of billionaires or millionaires in the country, it's properties either the main or secondary income on pretty much them all, isn't it? They've either got a business and they grow it and then buy property with the profits, or they're in property. It's definitely not a coincidence.
Yeah.
Love that. Thanks, guys.